Posterior chain strength is key to developing a strong, stable, and powerful body. It's essential to train the back portion of your body to be able to extend and straighten up, push off the ground, and stabilize our bodies. This translates to fewer sports injuries, greater athletic performance, and increase in strength. The king of posterior chain training is, of course, the deadlift. And yeah, there's something about that hip extension that makes one feel so powerful. The sensation when you squeeze your glutes and feel the legs burning, the power building up, there's just no better feeling. Posterior chain training is one of the main topics that interests me in terms of musculoskeletal health. Today, we'll grasp through the anatomy and function of the posterior chain, plus what are the main benefits of training your posterior chain, what are the best exercises, and if you stay till the end, I'll share my 2 workouts a week type of split routine, where and how I incorporate my posterior chain training. Why is training your posterior chain so important? Well, first of all, these muscles on the back help you extend and straighten up. So this helps align your spine, which improves posture. Next thing is it can help reduce athletic injuries and improve athletic performance. Having stronger glutes and hamstrings help you push off the ground faster, better, and stronger, translating to better jumping and sprinting abilities. Next thing is, strengthening the posterior chain is key to preventing discomfort and pain in your back, of course, gradually. By enhancing the strength of these muscles, your lower back takes less pressure on. And finally, it increases hip stability, improves strength, and helps you activate your central nervous system, which again translates into greater life quality, higher strength, and activation. As the name suggests, the posterior chain is comprised of all the muscles on the back portion of your body. The main ones being the back muscles, comprised of numerous smaller ones, and the back portion of your legs, predominantly the gluteus, hamstrings, and calves. These muscles collaborate to help you push and extend your hips forward to straighten your body. So there are numerous different posterior chain exercises. I picked the top 4 that in my opinion have the highest return on investment. This means that for the time spent doing these exercises, you are getting the most benefits. So normally we'd have the multi-joint or compound exercises like rowing or deadlifts here, but also one unilateral or single leg exercise for hip stability. Let's jump into it. A little disclaimer, you don't do any of these exercises and you don't lift heavy weights if you have some specific injury or back pain or whatever. You consult a doctor, a physician, you go hire a coach or a kinesiologist to teach you the correct technique first before you go to do these exercises. So first one is deadlifts. This is probably the king of posterior chain strength. It's probably the main exercise most people should include in their posterior chain training. As a kinesiologist, this is probably the first thing I'm teaching my clients to be able to properly hinge in their hips and incorporate their glutes and hamstrings on their way up. The deadlifts are so important because they help us extend the hips forward, something that we've lost due to too much sitting. They work primarily the hip extensors like the glutes and hamstrings, but calves and back can also fire up too with a proper technique. It is great for improving posture and getting those erectors up to help extend and straighten up, improving that spinal alignment, and it's also great for increasing strength and activating your central nervous system because it is one of the exercises in which you can lift very heavy weights. If I had to pick one exercise to do for the rest of my life, it'd probably going to be the deadlift. Position yourself right over the barbell, the shins are touching it. Hinge in your hip with a straight back, grip the barbell tight. Straighten your spine, activate your glutes, short inhale and tighten the core. Slowly lift the barbell as vertical and as close to the center of the body as possible. This reduces the pressure on the spine. Extend your hips, squeeze your glutes, and straighten out your back. Second exercise is the seated row. This is a compound exercise that targets the whole back. The back is a complex area comprised of numerous intertwined muscles, each having its own function. And by doing the seated row, where we row and push our elbows back, we activate a large portion of the back. This is why I call this a high return on investment exercise. It's kind of built for hypertrophy, especially if you do them slow and you really squeeze your scapula back. It helps you retract your shoulder blades, which consequentially improves posture and helps you sit up and stand up and walk straighter. Also, why it's very important is it combats kyphotic curvature or forward head posture that comes due to too much sitting. Why? Because it does stretch out the frontal part and strengthen out the back, which opens your thoracic region. Grip the handles tight, straighten your back so the weights are elevated in the starting position. Lower your shoulders from the start, you don't want to be lifting with your traps. Squeeze your shoulder blades tight and pull the weight toward your rib cage. Wait for 1 second and slowly get back. On the way back, you can extend your arms till the end. The point is to initiate the movement by retracting your scapula and hold it at the end so you really feel the squeeze. You feel the whole back activating. Then we have my second favorite exercise, the single leg deadlift. Just as the regular deadlift, this emphasizes hip extension, which activates the glutes and the hamstring, but it is done on one leg. Why? Because it is a better way to activate and stabilize the hip joint and the knee joint, which consequentially helps improve sports performance, increase stability and balance, and potentially reduce the risk of injuries. It is probably one of the best ways to fire up your glutes and train hip stability as well. I advise trying this exercise with no weights at first. Put the majority of your weight on your standing leg, hands behind your back, hinge your hips and fall forward. Shift your weight to the front part of the foot until you feel your gluteus muscles. Repeat for 10 reps as a warm-up. If no pain in the back was present, hip was stable and glutes activated, you can add some weight. Grip it with the opposite hand, straighten your back and focus on extending your hip with your glutes. Lowering down is done slower in a controlled manner. Activate the glutes and extend back up. The fourth one is the hip thrust. Now this is a little bit more complex to fully set up, but it is nonetheless a great exercise. Just as in the deadlifts, we primarily emphasize hip extension through the activation of your gluteus and hamstring muscles. So you basically set yourself on a bench, you put the weight around your hip, and you're trying to extend your hip forward, squeezing the glutes. This is especially important for athletes which look to improve maximal strength, as it is one of the exercises in which you can lift greater loads, meaning increase maximal strength and activate your central nervous system. Also, increasing your strength in the hip thrust translates to better athletic performance, as you can jump higher, run faster, and do all these sorts of hip extending abilities better. Position a barbell in front of a bench. Get seated on the ground, position your upper back on the bench and barbell on the hip, use cushion if needed. Before starting, one must activate the core to increase intra-abdominal pressure and prevent an arch in your lower back. The core must be tight so the spine takes less pressure. Full fit on the ground, push off the ground with your feet by activating the glutes and hamstring muscles. Just as in deadlift, extend your hip forward and squeeze your glutes. It's especially important to have your core active at all times and glutes squeezed at the top. So a little bit about my weekly split. So I lift weights twice a week. On a better week, that's 3 times. On a weaker week, that is once a week, but I respect one rule. At least once a week, I have to do my posterior chain training. And this one is comprised of the exercises we've been through today. So deadlifts, some sort of rowing, hip thrust, or one leg, single leg deadlift. Why? Because I work with so many people and I see the primary cause of low back pain or certain instability in the hips or injuries, etc. is weak hip extensors, primarily glutes and hamstrings. And I think in terms of musculoskeletal health, alongside all the other benefits like posture improvement, testosterone increase in strength, low back pain prevention, improving athletic performance, reducing injuries, etc., etc. I think training your posterior chain, although it may not be as sexy, it is one of the highest return on investments I want to do for my physical health. So that's why I respect the rule of at least once a week I do my posterior chain. The other training is usually anterior or frontal part. Push for the legs is the squats, and for the upper body you could do overhead presses, bench press, triceps extension, and stuff like this. And yeah, one more thing, I intentionally did not put reps and sets and volume and weights here because I would assume that everyone starts at a different level. So generally you want to aim for around 8 to 12 reps if you go for hypertrophy, and that is a load of 65 to 80 RM, which is something that you can lift about 10 to 15 times all in all. And for strength, I wouldn't advise anyone who's new to this try and lift heavy weights. First thing you need to focus is correcting your technique and then gradually increasing the weight. For increasing strength, the numbers hover around 90 to 95% rep max, which is exactly around 3 to 5 reps in total. But unless you're healthy, resistance trained, and experienced person, I would advise you to go more towards the technique and hypertrophy instead of lifting heavier loads. That's it for me. Hope this one inspired you to train your posterior chain a bit more and educated you on the importance and the benefits of posterior chain strength. Get your deadlifts going on, squeeze your glutes, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.